Hey, welcome back. Today I'm going to take you through all the steps for an oil change on a 998 Rotax enabled Spyder. This is going to be your RS or ST model with the SM5 manual transmission. We're going to want a little bit of room to work with, so we're going to put our Spyder up on ramps. Just a small lift is all you really need for the oil pan. And then we're going to take off this side cover panel with the 3 speed clips. There's one in the back and 2 in the front. Our next step is going to be to remove the skid plate from the bottom of the engine. Now, to do that, in order to get access to that, we do have to remove this screw right here. That'll allow this to pull out and give us access to the screw on the inside that holds the plate in. So with that screw removed, pull that out, you take out that screw right there to release the plate. So underneath the Spyder then there's a body clip here and one back here. These just have the little center post that pulls out, and then the rest of the peg pulls free, just standard little body clips. Once those are out, you can just grab this panel and pull it straight down, and it will click off of the frame rails and give you access to the bottom of the motor. Underneath the Spyder then there are 2 drain plugs. So this is your oil filter right here. You can see it. Just below that oil filter there's a drain plug. If I can get an angle on it. Right here. That's going to be your main engine oil drain plug. And then there's also a reservoir drain plug right up here. So you're going to want to remove both of those. Usually do these in order, so you do the reservoir first. Let that drain completely, clean off the plug, pop that back in. Then you're going to come back here and drain the engine block as well. Then once that's fully drained, we can clean all of that off and then remove this cover to get access to the filter. Our reservoir is draining. It's just a 6mm Allen. I use a ratchet attached one for that, but you can use a adjustable or multi-wrench as well. It's gonna be the same size for the crankcase drain plug once this is done dripping. The kits that you get with these for the oil change typically will include new gaskets for the plugs, so you want to switch those out each time, or at least inspect the ones that you have when you clean up the plug. So we'll let this finish dripping, and then I'll switch over to the crankcase. We'll drain that one out too, and then we'll deal with the filter. Okay, our second plug is draining. So with the crankcase plug, you're going to want to inspect it and remove any of these little metal shavings from the magnetic tip. So just clean this off. If you're seeing a lot of metal shavings, that would be an indication that you probably need to get your bike in for service and figure out what's going on. A few tiny little pieces, not a huge deal. So we're going to clean this off, and we're going to replace this gasket as well. If you have the kit through BajaRon, the filter kit ships with all the new crush gaskets that you need, as well as an O-ring for your filter. So I'll get this cleaned off and ready to go, and then once that's done draining, I'll get this plug back in, and then we'll deal with the filter. All right, next up is going to be to remove this cover and get access to the oil filter now that all of our oil has drained. There are 2 screws for that. There's one at the very top of this cover and one at the bottom. They are 5mm Allens, so you have to switch out your 6 for a 5 to get to this. Access in here is pretty tight. If you do have the ratchet, it's a little bit easier than if you're trying to do a multi-tool for this. As a tip on the filter bolts, what I usually do is start them with the handle, and then I switch to one of these guys. It's a little bit easier just for the clearance. So once they're loose, you can kind of palm this in that tight space. Otherwise, with a typical ratchet handle, you're going to get about 2 clicks on each turn just because of the tight space you're working with. So this part can get a little bit messy. So what I typically do is I take the top screw out first, and then I loosen the bottom screw just until the cover starts to release, and just kind of let that oil flow out of there until as much of it as possible drains out, and then I pull the cap. That avoids the kind of wave of oil that's stuck in the filter from getting all over your garage floor. So I'll usually kind of loosen it like this, have the top screw out completely, you can kind of see, and then just loosen that bottom one until it starts to drain, and just let it drain until it's mostly empty. Then pull it out the rest of the way, clean everything up, pull the old filter out, and pop a new one in. Okay, the oil filter is removed. It's there laying on top of my drain pan. You can kind of see the other Sort of nasty truth about this, there's no easy way to get that oil filter out of there without making a mess. You have to kind of squeeze it between that hose and the frame rail. So you're gonna get a little bit of oil on things. I had a rag on this, it just knocked it out of the way, so I'm just wiping all of this down. So you wanna wipe and kind of clean up all of the oil that dripped here, any on the frame rail, and there's a little kind of metal lip. If I can get my camera in here, probably not. Just on there you can see where oil has puddled on that little lip as well. So you want to clean up as much of that as you can, just so it doesn't drip inside and then drip onto your garage floor. So clean that up, and then we'll put the new filter and the new O-ring on the cap, get that all reinstalled, and then we'll start our fill-up process. Now that everything is all kind of dried off and clean underneath, we can start reassembly. So this is a high flow HF 564 filter. K&N makes a version as well. And this has a rubber gasket on one side and then sort of a metal detent on the other side. So what you're gonna do is essentially pop this in here and push this onto those 3 pegs just so it seats well. And then the BajaRon kit also includes a new gasket here, so we replaced that as well. And then we will thread this in. I'm gonna do everything just in the reverse order. So I'm gonna pop this on, kind of rethread it back between that frame rail and the hose, and then I'll start with the lower screw, get that seated, and then do the upper screw as well, tighten that all down, and then we'll start refilling. So we're all snugged up and wiped down underneath. Our next step is going to be to add the oil. Now this motor takes 4 quarts of oil, but the refill process is to add 3. Install the dipstick, let everything warm up, and then pull the dipstick and add that 4th quart. That lets the oil cycle through the engine a little bit easier. So I'm gonna grab my funnel, we're gonna put in 3 quarts, I'll fire it up, let it warm up, check for leaks underneath, make sure that everything is fine. There's no leaks around the cap for the filter, no leaks in any of the 2 drain plugs. And then once that's done, I'll add my 4th quart to it. We'll take it out for a ride, make sure it's fully up to temperature, run it through its paces a little bit, and then we'll bring it back and check it. 4th quart is in. So now we're ready to do a ride and actually check the level appropriately. So again, we're checking the level. You want to go out for about a 10-mile ride, get it straight up to actual operating temperature, bring it back, park it level, and according to the guides on the bike, let it sit idling level for about 30 seconds, and then shut it down, pull the dipstick, check your level at that point, and you'll get an accurate reading. So I'm going to do that. Before I do that, I'm going to put the skid plate back on the bottom, remembering to put that screw that's hidden underneath the wind deflector back in. I'll screw the wind deflector in. I'm not going to put the side panel on just for the purpose of this short ride, because I'm just going to do this to check the oil. And then once I've verified everything is ready to go, I'll button it all up and we'll be done. That wraps us up from the garage. Not a hard process. Just remember, when you do this, there are 2 drain plugs that you need to drain, one under the crankcase and then one on the oil reservoir. You want to do the reservoir first and then the crankcase. Be a little careful when you're taking off the cover for that oil filter, because it does get a bit messy. Tools that you're going to need for this are a standard screwdriver to get those body clips out, and you're going to need a T30, I believe, Torx, and then a 6mm and a 5mm Allen key to get the bolts underneath. Otherwise, total time, I mean, it's kind of up to you how long it takes to drain the oil out, but probably 45 minutes start to finish and you're done. So now that we're at the end of a DIY dad video, of course, I have to end you with a dad joke. And since we've been doing this particular topic, I was going to do a joke about crude oil, but I needed a little bit of refinement. I know, it was lame, right? So I'll get you with another one. I was reading online that there's actually an oil company that's trying to make engine oil out of insect urine. I don't remember who it was that was doing that. I think it was BP. All right, have a great day. Catch you next time. Remember to ride safe, and we'll see you out there.